The trembling stopped. Seicento Giuseppe Morelli set down his pencil. The letter to his mother in Sicily was complete. 8 months would pass before she read these impossible words. April 1943 had brought revelations that shattered everything he believed. Camp Hereford stretched across the Texas plains. Electric lights blazed through windows. Tractors worked fields that seemed to stretch forever. American guards shared cigarettes with their prisoners. None of this matched what Mussolini had promised. The new Roman Empire was supposed to be Italy's destiny. America was meant to collapse from weakness and division. Yet here, surrounded by barbed wire, Italian soldiers discovered abundance that exceeded their wildest dreams. White bread appeared daily, real meat, fresh vegetables, more food than 2 years of war had provided. The prisoners couldn't understand their captors. This treatment defied logic. Through that barracks window, Morelli watched a world that contradicted fascist propaganda. Every sight challenged what he had been told. America was supposed to be dying. Instead, prosperity blazed across the landscape like those electric lights that never dimmed. The journey to this revelation had begun in North Africa's desert warfare. Months of fighting had worn down Italian forces. Supplies never arrived from home. German allies treated them as expendable soldiers. British and American forces pressed from multiple directions. The end came swiftly in Tunisia. General Giovanni Messi's First Army collapsed completely. Without ammunition, food, or hope, surrender became inevitable. Among 275,000 Axis troops who laid down weapons in May 1943, approximately 50,000 were Italian soldiers. These North African prisoners formed the foundation. Eventually, 51,000 Italian POWs would reach American shores. More would arrive from Sicily's battles. Others from mainland Italy's campaigns. Each group brought the same expectations of harsh treatment. Death seemed possible. Forced labor appeared certain. Instead, they discovered what thousands would describe in letters home as something approaching paradise. Collection camps in Tunisia provided the first shocking contradictions. American military efficiency impressed even veteran soldiers. Medical examinations were thorough and gentle. Many prisoners received their first proper medical care in years. New clothing replaced uniforms that were mostly patches. The original fabric had long since worn away. But food created the greatest impact. After months of survival rations, Americans provided abundance. White bread daily, canned meat that tasted fresh, coffee sweetened with real sugar. Chocolate appeared regularly. Such luxuries had vanished from Italy before the war began. Liberty ships carried them across the Atlantic Ocean. These vessels returned from delivering supplies to European battlefields. Rather than sail empty, they transported human cargo. Up to 30,000 POWs crossed monthly during summer 1943. The 2-week voyage provided systematic destruction of fascist lies. The ships themselves demonstrated American productivity beyond comprehension. Mass production at rates Italy could never achieve. Radar equipment, seen only on advanced British warships, was standard on American cargo vessels. Ship mess halls provided daily amazement. American sailors had ice cream machines. Unlimited coffee flowed freely. Fresh bread and meat appeared at every meal. They discarded food that would have been treasured in Italy. This casual waste revealed resources beyond understanding. Abundance so complete that waste became routine. Such plenty challenged everything Italian soldiers had been taught about American weakness. Atlantic ports shocked them further. Norfolk, Virginia sprawled across thousands of acres. Docks stretched for miles in both directions. Dozens of ships loaded and unloaded simultaneously. Electric cranes lifted loads requiring dozens of men in Italy. Civilian prosperity struck them most forcefully. Parking lots filled with workers' automobiles. In Italy, only wealthy families owned cars. Every building blazed with electric lights. Shops displayed goods that had vanished from Italian stores years earlier. Train journeys into America's heartland revealed impossible wealth. They traveled in passenger coaches, not cattle cars. Cushioned seats provided comfort. Electric lights illuminated interiors. Dining cars served meals during travel. Every small town possessed electricity, automobiles and shops overflowing with goods. Factories operated 3 shifts using electric power. Even rural farms had tractors and electrical connections. Such mechanization was unimaginable in Italy. Camp Hereford was designated exclusively for Italian prisoners. Other facilities like Camp Heron held primarily German POWs. The arrangement acknowledged cultural differences between Axis partners. 4 compounds contained barracks, mess halls, and infirmaries. Barbed wire fences surrounded everything. Armed guards monitored all movement. At peak capacity, 3,160 prisoners called Hereford home. The camp alone housed 2,580 Italian POWs. This made it one of Texas's primary centers for Italian prisoners. Facilities exceeded Italian military standards dramatically. Barracks featured electric lighting throughout. Hot showers provided daily comfort. Flush toilets replaced primitive latrines. Heating systems warmed buildings during winter months. Hospital equipment surpassed anything available in Italy since before the war. X-ray machines enabled proper diagnosis. Modern surgical tools allowed complex operations. Medical care exceeded what wealthy Italians could obtain at home. Prison camp life approached paradise for men accustomed to hardship. Clean barracks provided shelter. Hot showers offered daily luxury. Abundant food filled empty stomachs. Money earned from work could purchase extras at camp stores. 3 meals daily included meat, vegetables, bread, milk, and often dessert. Special holiday meals exceeded anything they had known even in peacetime. Kitchen workers reported throwing away more food daily than their families in Italy received weekly. Such waste demonstrated abundance beyond Italian comprehension. Food appeared unlimited. Waste became routine. Plenty was assumed rather than treasured. September 8, 1943 changed everything again. Italy surrendered to the Allies. Marshal Pietro Badoglio's government switched sides completely. On October 13th, Italy declared war against Germany. After surrender, Italian Prime Minister instructed POWs to collaborate with former enemies. Beginning February 1944, the United States Army Service Corps offered Italian prisoners new choices. They could remain captives or volunteer for Italian service units. These ISU positions involved working alongside Americans in non-combat roles. The response overwhelmed expectations. Of 51,000 Italian POWs held in the United States, over 45,000 joined service units. They signed pledges to assist against their former German allies. Privileges transformed their entire experience. Though officially still classified as POWs, they received new uniforms. Only a patch reading Italy distinguished them from American soldiers. The patch was worn on left sleeves and stitched onto standard garrison caps. Monthly stipends of $24 provided spending money. Only 1/3 was paid in cash. The remainder came as scrip for use on base. This money purchased supplies and personal items. California welcomed Italian POWs most enthusiastically. War was palpable through 1945 because of intense Pacific fighting. Italian POWs supporting the war effort received warm reception. the state's large Italian-American population embraced their countrymen. These communities had established roots during Gold Rush era. Fishermen, farmers, and winemakers created strong foundations. Angel Island held the most amazing story. Italian POWs stationed there held regular dances in San Francisco. They rented a hall using their own earnings. Saturday night events became major social occasions. American women attended these dances. Chaperones ensured propriety but couldn't prevent connections. Eager women wanted to meet Italian soldiers. Romance bloomed despite regulations. California's agricultural fields revealed farming beyond comprehension. Single farms exceeded the size of Italian provinces. Mechanical harvesters performed work of hundreds of men. Scale defied understanding. Italian ISU members became essential contributors to America's war effort. They loaded ships preparing for D-Day invasion. They harvested crops that would have rotted without their labor. They maintained military equipment using expertise gained in North Africa. Italian service units provided over 90 million man-days of labor from 1943 to 1945. In financial terms, the program saved an estimated $230 million for the United States government. Thousands of Americans were freed for combat duty. Brooklyn Army Terminal witnessed Italian prisoners loading supplies for Europe's liberation. They worked with genuine enthusiasm. Every shipment brought Italy closer to freedom from German occupation. Agricultural areas depended on Italian labor to save crucial harvests. By June 1943, over 1,400 Italian POWs lived in camps throughout the United States. As programs expanded after Italy's surrender, Italian workers became indispensable across many sectors. Labor shortages affected every industry. Romance flourished despite military regulations. Italian prisoners met American women at church services and approved social events. Work assignments created other opportunities for connection. Regulations prohibited marriages between prisoners of war and American citizens. Yet love found ways around obstacles. Sympathetic priests performed secret ceremonies. Couples maintained relationships through extensive correspondence. Many women followed Italian boyfriends to Italy after repatriation. They married there before returning to America as wives of legal immigrants. Italian-American communities played crucial supporting roles. In areas with large Italian populations, POWs found surrogate families. Sunday dinner invitations became regular occurrences. Letter-writing assistants connected prisoners with home. These connections lasted decades after war's end. Christmas 1943 created profound emotional impact throughout the camps. American churches organized package drives for prisoners. Civic organizations sent cigarettes, chocolate, and toiletries. These luxuries were scarce even for American civilians. Local communities organized elaborate dinners and celebrations. At Camp Hereford, area churches performed Italian Christmas carols. Catholic parishes held midnight mass in Latin and Italian. Services connected prisoners with familiar traditions. Christmas feasts included turkey, ham, multiple side dishes, and rich desserts. Such abundance hadn't appeared in Italy since before World War I began. This kindness toward enemies shattered remaining fascist propaganda about American weakness. Italian POWs wrote detailed letters home, describing American generosity. Only a nation certain of victory could show such treatment to enemies. Confidence radiated from every gesture of kindness. By 1944, thousands of Italian POWs enrolled in comprehensive educational programs. They studied English grammar and conversation. American history revealed democratic principles. Mathematics improved practical skills. Vocational training prepared for peacetime careers. Universities provided correspondence courses for advanced study. Camps showed Hollywood films for entertainment and cultural education. Newspapers evolved from simple news sheets to sophisticated publications discussing democracy and post-war reconstruction. Italian POWs built elaborate theaters for performances. They formed orchestras that gave concerts. They created artwork that remains in many locations today. Various camps feature fountains, murals, and chapels constructed by prisoners. These weren't crude prisoner crafts, but professional quality work. Italian artistic traditions produced lasting monuments. Visitors still come to see these remarkable creations decades later. News of June 6, 1944. Normandy invasion reached camps quickly. Italian POWs celebrated wildly throughout facilities. These were former enemies landing in France, but they were also liberators who would free Italy from German occupation. Italian POWs worked extra shifts loading critical supplies. They painted messages on shipping boxes. For the liberation of Rome appeared frequently. Death to the Nazis expressed their new allegiance. Rome's fall on June 4, 1944, sparked joint celebrations across America. Italian POWs and Italian Americans held victory masses together. Former enemies had become allies against Nazi Germany. Camp Hereford prisoners and local residents held victory services, drawing thousands. Throughout captivity, Italian POWs experienced genuine American kindness in countless ways. When prisoners received news of family deaths from bombing in Italy, American guards and commanders attended memorial services. Local families adopted prisoners who had lost everything. Holiday loneliness disappeared through community embrace. Medical treatment particularly affected prisoner attitudes. Italian doctors worked alongside American medical staff. They learned advanced techniques and used modern equipment unavailable in Italy for years. Prisoners received operations and treatments available only to wealthy Italians at home. Democratic health care impressed men accustomed to class-based medicine. Equal treatment, regardless of social status, challenged fascist hierarchies. Separation between German and Italian prisoners became more pronounced after Italy's surrender. German POWs often maintained Nazi ideology, despite similar treatment. Italians embraced their new status as co-belligerents. They worked enthusiastically for Allied victory. March 1944 brought 1,800 ISU members to Boston. First housed at Camp McKay in South Boston, prisoners received frosty treatment from locals. Boston's Italian-American community initially viewed POWs with suspicion. They feared damage to their reputation as loyal Americans. Transformation came quickly through demonstrated loyalty. Italian POWs proved themselves industrious workers at Boston's port of embarkation. They sang in church choirs with beautiful voices. They cooked for community festivals. They introduced authentic Italian cuisine to second-generation Italian Americans. Many had never tasted real Italian food. Their parents had adapted to American ingredients and tastes. POW cooks revealed authentic flavors and traditional preparations. Cultural reconnection occurred through food. Rising tensions with South Boston community forced relocation. In response, 1,300 ISU members transferred to Peddocks Island in Boston Harbor. Island life provided greater freedom and reduced local friction. Trustees enjoyed Sunday boat trips into Boston's North End. They often dined with Italian-American families eager to hear news from Italy. These connections bridged cultures and created lasting friendships. Italian POWs witnessed American industrial and agricultural production that defied all comprehension. California's Central Valley farms produced more than entire Italian provinces. Mechanical harvesters processed in hours what required weeks in Italy. Perfect fruit was discarded for minor cosmetic blemishes. Entire crops were sometimes plowed under to maintain market prices. Such waste would have prevented starvation in Italy. Here it demonstrated unlimited production capacity. Casual attitudes toward abundance stunned prisoners most profoundly. Workers threw away half-eaten lunches without thought. Lights burned in empty rooms all night. Americans drove automobiles to work as a matter of course. All of this was unthinkable in wartime Italy. Families survived on meager rations, carefully rationed. Every resource was precious. Nothing was wasted. America's casual abundance challenged every assumption about scarcity and want. Men earned $8 monthly for field work or fishing boat duties. Even modest wages seemed generous to men who had nothing. They saved carefully to send money home after war's end. Italian prisoners left permanent marks on American culture that endure today. They introduced bocce ball to communities that still play regularly. They taught Americans to make authentic pasta and pizza. This helped launch what became a multi-billion-dollar food industry. Decorative work, including fountains, murals, and chapels, remains in dozens of locations. These artistic contributions beautify communities decades after their creators returned home. Camp newspapers published by POWs showed remarkable transformation over time. Early articles focused on news from Italy and personal concerns. Later publications discussed democracy, American farming techniques, and plans for post-war reconstruction. These newspapers circulated among camps, spreading ideas about democratic governance and modern methods. Intellectual evolution occurred through written exchange of ideas. July 16, 1944, brought the 38th and 40th Italian Quartermaster Service Companies to Rock Island Arsenal. They arrived by train from Pine Camp, New York. Maintenance and support work proved so valuable that commanders requested delays in repatriation after war's end. Agricultural sites showcased Italian expertise from generations of farming tradition. They introduced techniques that improved American agriculture. Their knowledge of soil, climate, and crops benefited American farmers. Work in quarries, shipyards, and military depots freed thousands of Americans for combat duty. Italian service unit volunteers also reduced American draft requirements. Fewer men had to be conscripted because of Italian assistance. Scale of Italian POW experience in America reached remarkable proportions. At peak in May 1945, 425,171 POWs were held in United States facilities. This included 371,683 Germans, 5,273 Italians, and 3,215 Japanese prisoners. Italian POWs numbered 51,000 and were housed in 21 camps across 18 states. Their geographic distribution reflected labor needs and security considerations. Labor contributions totaled 90 million man-days of work. This saved $230 million in labor costs for the government. Thousands of Americans were freed for combat assignments. Critical harvests were saved from rotting in fields. Integration success was remarkable. 45,000 joined Italian service units willingly. Less than 1% attempted escape from camps. Thousands maintained correspondence with American families after war's end. Many returned as legal immigrants seeking new lives. Repatriation began in late 1945, but proceeded slowly. America needed their labor for transition to peacetime economy. Many Italian POWs didn't want to leave at all. They had found friendship and opportunity in America. Italy remained destroyed and occupied by various forces. When departures finally began, entire communities turned out for goodbyes. Camp Hereford and other facilities saw emotional scenes. Local newspapers wrote about losing friends, not merely prisoners. Relationships formed during captivity faced painful separation. Between December 1945 and July 1946, Italian POWs returned to Italy. They carried knowledge of American democracy, agricultural techniques, and industrial methods. They became inadvertent architects of Italy's post-war reconstruction. American approaches learned during captivity were implemented in Italian recovery. Democratic principles took root through practical experience rather than theoretical instruction. Many former POWs returned to America as legal immigrants as promised. Employers sponsored workers they valued for skills and reliability. Families sponsored men they had befriended during captivity. Women sponsored men they had married after following them to Italy. Thousands built new lives in America successfully. These immigrants achieved remarkable success rates. They founded businesses particularly in food industries and import-export trade between Italy and America. Connections maintained between nations facilitated post-war recovery and expanded trade. Cultural bridges built during captivity supported decades of cooperation. Former POWs and their descendants achieved prominence in American society across multiple generations. They became judges, business leaders, military officers, and community leaders. Success stories multiplied through hard work and opportunity. Children raised with both Italian and American heritage bridged cultures in unique ways. Bilingual skills and bicultural understanding created advantages in business and diplomacy. Physical reminders of Italian POW experience survive across America today. At Camp Hereford, a small chapel built by prisoners in 1945 still stands intact. Constructed to honor 5 men who died at camp, it features concrete crafted to resemble marble. The chapel serves as pilgrimage site for descendants seeking connections to family history. Bocce courts from California to Massachusetts trace origins to Italian POWs who introduced the traditional game. Italian festivals in unlikely places like Texas and Utah celebrate POW legacy through food, music, and cultural exchange. Recipes taught by POW cooks remain cherished. Family traditions passed down through generations. True monuments are families and communities transformed by this experience. Business relationships established during the 1940s continue through 3rd and 4th generations. Sister city relationships between American and Italian towns originated from POW connections. Historians recognize Italian POW experience as remarkably successful in transforming enemies into allies. Unlike traditional re-education through propaganda, Italian POWs were converted through direct experience. They witnessed American democracy and prosperity firsthand. Several factors contributed to this unprecedented success. Italy's surrender in 1943 changed POW status from enemy to co-belligerent. Italian-American communities provided crucial cultural bridges between groups. Catholic faith shared by many Italians and Americans created natural bonds. Italy's pre-war economic struggles made POWs receptive to alternatives. American abundance and kindness contradicted fascist propaganda completely. Contrast with German POWs proves instructive. Germans often maintained Nazi ideology despite receiving similar treatment. Italians almost universally embraced American values and democratic principles. This difference reflected cultural factors and timing of Italy's surrender. German surrender came only after total defeat. Italian surrender came while hope remained for national redemption. Italian POW experience influenced both nations profoundly for decades. For America, it demonstrated power of kindness and prosperity in winning hearts and minds. For Italy, returning POWs brought knowledge that contributed to post-war democratic development. Economic recovery benefited from techniques and connections learned in America. Former POWs helped establish business relationships between Italy and America that facilitated trade and investment. American agricultural and industrial techniques were introduced to modernize Italian production. Most importantly, they carried memories of democracy functioning successfully. These provided models for Italy's post-war government development. Success relied on demonstration rather than indoctrination. Italian POWs saw American society functioning effectively while treating enemies with dignity. They witnessed production capacity that made victory inevitable. Living standards they experienced exposed fascist promises as complete fantasies. Reality contradicted propaganda more effectively than any counter-arguments could achieve. Starting in 1970s, former Italian POWs organized reunions in America. These gatherings celebrated transformation and friendship rather than captivity. Bonds formed during imprisonment had strengthened over decades. The 1988 reunion at Camp Hereford drew hundreds of former POWs and thousands of Americans who had known them. Veterans spoke of gratitude for American kindness rather than resentment about imprisonment. Lives had been transformed by captivity in positive ways. Enemies had become family through shared experience. Testimonies emphasized that imprisonment had been fortunate, opening doors to democracy, prosperity, and lasting friendship. Elderly men who had arrived as Mussolini's soldiers embraced American guards who had become lifelong friends. Their grandchildren, American and Italian, played together freely. Living proof of reconciliation filled reunion grounds. Why did Italian POWs call American camps almost paradise? Not because captivity was pleasant in itself, but because it revealed possibilities they had never imagined before. They discovered that prosperity came from freedom rather than conquest. Diversity created strength rather than weakness, as fascists claimed. Democracy functioned better than dictatorship in practical terms. Ordinary Americans lived better than Italian aristocracy had before the war. Workers owned automobiles unthinkable in Italy. Farms used machinery that multiplied productivity. Factories produced abundance rather than scarcity. They experienced kindness from enemies that their own government had never shown them. This treatment challenged every assumption about power, loyalty, and human nature. Paradise was relative to their previous experience. Compared to years of war, starvation, and propaganda lies, American camps offered food, safety, and human dignity. Compared to what awaited in bombed, occupied Italy, America represented hope and opportunity for better futures. The contrast made prison camps seem like paradise. Italian POW experience enriched American culture permanently in countless ways. Pizza, now a multi-billion-dollar industry, was popularized partly by POW cooks who taught Americans authentic preparation methods. Espresso culture, decades before Starbucks existed, was introduced by Italian prisoners to communities that had never tasted real coffee properly prepared. Small towns across America hold Italian festivals celebrating connections born from POW experience. In Hereford, Texas, annual POW reunion became beloved community tradition. In California's Central Valley, wineries founded by former POWs produce wines using techniques brought from Italy. Linguistic impact was significant and lasting. Thousands of Americans learned Italian from POWs, creating a generation of Italian speakers. These would facilitate post-war business and cultural exchange between nations. Italian words entered local vocabularies permanently, particularly in food and agriculture. Regional dialects still contain Italian terms learned during the 1940s. Beyond immediate $230 million in labor value, Italian POWs contributed to long-term economic connections. Former prisoners who became American citizens facilitated billions in trade between Italy and America. Business relationships maintained across decades created mutual prosperity. Agricultural techniques learned and implemented in Italy helped that nation's post-war recovery significantly. Industrial methods observed influenced Italian manufacturing, contributing to the Italian economic miracle of 1950s and 1960s. American businesses benefited from connections with former POWs who understood both cultures intimately. Import-export firms, food companies, and manufacturing partnerships flourished through relationships begun in prison camps. Cultural understanding facilitated successful business ventures. Studies of former Italian POWs revealed remarkable psychological outcomes. Unlike many POW populations who suffered lasting trauma, Italian prisoners in America showed lower rates of depression and PTSD than Italian soldiers who weren't captured. Psychologists attribute this to several protective factors. Excellent treatment exceeded all expectations dramatically. Meaningful work provided sense of purpose and accomplishment. Social integration reduced isolation and loneliness. Educational opportunities offered hope for better futures. Transformation from enemy to ally status after Italy's surrender provided dignity and meaning to captivity experience. Psychological impact extended to families across generations. Children of former POWs often reported that fathers spoke positively of captivity experience. This was highly unusual for war-related experiences. Positive framework influenced family dynamics and international perspectives for generations. Children grew up with nuanced understanding of former enemies and international cooperation. Story of Italian POWs in America demonstrates war's capacity for unexpected transformation. Men who arrived as Mussolini's soldiers left as democracy's advocates. Enemies became friends through shared experience. Prisoners became partners in building better futures. Many ultimately became Americans through choice rather than conquest. Simple acts achieved remarkable transformation. Sharing food created bonds. Providing medical care showed compassion. Allowing religious worship respected dignity. Enabling correspondence with families maintained hope. America converted adversaries more effectively than any propaganda campaign could achieve. Italian POWs witnessed American society at its best and wanted similar prosperity and freedom for their own nation. Contribution went far beyond manual labor. They enriched American culture permanently. They strengthened Italian-American communities through connections. They built bridges between nations that endure today. Descendants, whether in Italy or America, embody possibility of reconciliation and friendship after conflict. Their existence proves that enemies can become family through understanding and respect. Italian POWs found their quasi un paradiso not in camps themselves, but in revelation of what society could achieve through democracy and freedom. They returned to Italy carrying seeds of transformation. These seeds helped build democratic nation from fascism's ruins. Ideas planted during captivity grew into institutions that shaped modern Italy's development. In the end, 51,000 Italian soldiers captured in North Africa discovered in American captivity what Mussolini's empire could never provide. They found dignity, opportunity, and hope for better futures. They called it paradise, not because it was perfect, but because it showed them perfection was possible. Through their transformation, enemies became family members. Two nations found friendship that endures across generations. Legacy reminds us that even in war's darkest moments, humanity can prevail over hatred. Kindness can conquer where weapons cannot achieve lasting victory. Showing enemies a better way may transform them into friends. Italian POWs who found paradise in America proved that reconciliation is possible. Democracy's example carries powerful influence. Treating enemies with dignity can yield victory more lasting than any battlefield triumph. Camps are mostly gone now, returned to farmland or developed into suburbs. But in Hereford, Texas, small chapel still stands as testament. In California, bocce courts echo with Italian voices. In countless American communities, families trace roots to Italian soldiers who found paradise in captivity and chose to stay. They came as warriors of failed empire. They left as builders of democratic future. They arrived as prisoners of war. They discovered paradise in America. In that discovery, two nations found friendship that neither war nor time could ever break.